Hey y'all, it's Mary Hyatt, and I'm so excited you're here for this month's topic, which is all about soul rest. I know that it has been one hell of a year, and we all need some extra TLC right about now. So don't worry, I've got you covered this month, and I'll make sure that you feel recharged and replenished so that you can finish out this crazy year with energy to spare. All right, let's jump into it.
Welcome to the Living Fully Alive podcast with Mary Hyatt, here to help you find your authentic voice, learn how to love yourself, and embrace your life. And now, your host, life and mindset coach, body love advocate, and doTERRA Presidential Diamond, Mary Hyatt.
Hey everybody, it is Mary, and it's good to be back with you guys. I was gone last week. I actually took about a 3-week sabbatical, which is so perfect because this month we've been talking all about soul rest, and I have been able to really slow down and practice what I preach. And y'all, I mean, it's so interesting, all the things that show up during resting, which makes so much sense why we have an avoidance for it. It's like the stuff that we've been avoiding, the stuff that we've been ignoring, the stuff that we have stuffed inevitably shows up. And yet it's one of the most healing things that we can do for our lives. And I've just loved the conversations that we've had this month around soul rest. If you remember the first episode, we talked all about sort of this idea of soul rest, this need for ourselves to incorporate a Sabbath again. That historically this has been in our fabric of humanity since the beginning of time, and we really lost that in our modern age, the ability and just practice of resting. And then Lindsley and I had a great episode where we talked about what it looks like to see this concept of workaholism, of doing more, of hustling as really a societal addiction, and how to recover and really get out of the mindset of I have to do more to earn love and to achieve more in order to earn love. So that was a really just a fun, candid conversation. So definitely go back and listen to that one. And then the last episode we did was with my dear, sweet friend, Melody Miles, who talked all about this idea of a soulcation, really creating a life that you don't need a vacation from. So as y'all know, we take a whole month and we focus in on one topic, and we have usually 4 episodes around that. And we kind of hit it from all different angles, whether that's just hearing me like on a solo podcast like today's and the first podcast, whether my co-host Lindsley jumps on and we have a candid conversation about it, or I bring in a special guest to kind of offer their expertise in the area. So I thought I would today just sort of recap and bring this sort of full circle for us. And before I do that, I just want to say that I am so excited to welcome all of the brand new members into the Fully Alive Circle membership. I have been in launch mode for the past week, and so many of you guys decided to jump into the monthly membership, and I could not be more excited to dive deeper with you. So if you didn't hear about it, if you are curious about what the Fully Alive Circle membership is, which is my online membership where I take what we talk about here in the podcast and we go deeper into it through daily devotional practices like meditation and yoga and journal prompts and so much more, you can head on over and get on the wait list for the next time that I open the cart. But yay for all the new Circle members. We've got our full moon meditation tonight, and I cannot wait. But for everybody else, let's hop into a little bit more of this conversation around rest. And I want to get into the deeper meaning of rest. I mean, we've been talking about actual rest, sort of this idea of being a hurried society, and this idea of sort of bouncing from one thing to the other, using exhaustion as a status symbol, and kind of look at just how vital it is that we carve out actual rest, self-care, sleep, days off, actual vacation. And for today's conversation, I want to take it out of that kind of rest, which we've talked about in the other episodes, and really emphasize the word soul when we talk about rest. obviously we need the practical rest, but our souls need rest. I don't know about you guys, but if you're listening to this in real time, the first debate, presidential debate, was last night. And it was just, I mean, we have a lot of opinions, don't we? It's like social media is blowing up about this. I mean, it's just embarrassing. Let's be honest. It's just almost it's like I don't even have words. I feel a little bit speechless around it because it sort of feels like I'm living in a dream. Like, is this really where we're at? Is this really happening? And I have shame for the country right now, honestly. And it's just heartbreaking to see that. And given what we've all been going through this year and this kind of constant pivoting, this constant reactionary mode, this constant sort of, okay, what's next? And then to kind of witness that last night, I don't know about you guys, but it was like, as much as I do this work, and try to detach from it, there's still a part of me that my nervous system gets triggered. And my soul is like, oh my God. It's like, I feel already kind of like worn thin, and just seeing that, witnessing that, it doesn't feel great. It's like, I feel like my soul is tired. So when we talk about rest, like literally sleep and, drinking enough water and taking days off. And then we talk about soul rest, like my soul feels tired, two different things. Like when our physical bodies need rest, we talk about, or I should say, we use words like I feel exhausted, or I feel burnt out, or I feel overwhelmed, or I feel tired. But when our soul needs rest, we use words like weary. I feel weary. I feel fatigued. I feel apathetic. I feel worn out. I feel depressed. I feel sullen. And to me, it's almost like we have to do our part in calling in the light, obviously, and really grounding in and centering in. And this is where I'm like, so glad those of you that are in the circle are in the circle. But if you have a practice of doing that regularly, like we need that, like we need fresh water and breathing air. Like we need our spiritual practices right now, meditation, yoga, prayer, journaling, going up. We need that more than ever because our souls are weary, especially this year. And so to me, the warning signs, like when I have that soul exhaustion, the warning signs to kind of let me know, okay, these are these little red flags, and kind of take this for yourself and self-diagnose to kind of see on a scale of 1 to 10, how weary in your soul do you feel? Because I think it's helpful to almost get the diagnosis for ourselves so that we can really prioritize and create the space for what is necessary in order for our souls to feel expansive again, to feel vibrant again, to feel alive again. And if we don't get radically honest about where we are at, sort of like, am I in the yellow? Am I in the orange? Am I in the red? Like, where am I at? We can't really properly give ourselves what we need to come back to sort of like stability, centering, grounding. Like we got to know what we're working with. So to me, some of these little warning signs, and sort of check in with yourself and see how many of these feel true for you. When our soul is weary, we start to isolate. So think about that just in yourself. You start to isolate. Is that true or not? We start breaking commitments. Like maybe in our best self, we'd be like, yeah, like I want to go out, or I want to meet this person, or I want to do this thing. And we find ourselves breaking commitments because we like literally don't have the emotional, mental bandwidth to show up for other people. We start craving a lot of sugar or alcohol or carbs. Now, I don't want to villainize those things because those are all beautiful things in their own right. But there's this like craving of just like when our adrenals are totally wiped out, we need those things in states of trauma to give our bodies the fuel they need. So to me, anytime that I'm like excessively wanting alcohol, sugar, or carbs, again, I eat those things regularly, but it's like the excessive piece is like, ooh, like I'm in that kind of like, ooh, warning sign, red flag state. Another little red flag could be that our nervous system is just running hot. It's like our foot is all the way down on the gas pedal and it won't downshift. So we're in fifth gear all the time. So we forget things. We're a little bit jumpy. Or finding ourselves playing out worst case scenario ideas. This is our lizard brain. This is our sort of fight, flight, or freeze brain that is just running the show. And so it's that foggy brain kind of thinking where we're just a little bit on edge. It's sort of like we joke in my house, Bentley and I joke about this. We talk about being like teetering when we're on the edge and we go, I'm teetering, which is me like, I'm about to have a mental, emotional breakdown and I'm teetering. I'm right on the edge. And that's sort of our little lingo to go, okay, got it. Let me come love on you. But our nervous system is running hot. We might not be sleeping well. And then when our soul is weary, we feel hopeless. I know that I think a lot of people have felt that this week. Like we feel like giving up. We feel like nothing that we do or say is going to matter. Perhaps another kind of red flag is that you're feeling extra emotional, like for no, quote unquote, for no reason. Like you just find yourself feeling a little more emotional, either angrier, quick to snap. You could be quick to cry. It's sort of like that. Some of those PMS symptoms are just showing up more frequently or across the board, even when you're not on your cycle. We stop dreaming. So we get like hyper focused on the here and the now and sort of what's going wrong. And we stop dreaming. We stop looking ahead. We stop forecasting. We stop visioning sort of the best of what we want in our lives. So essentially, to me, when we are being asked like, hey, come back, you need some rest, sweet one, is when I feel like there's literally like no bandwidth for anything that isn't absolutely necessary. My soul is weary. So I want you to think about that just for a second and scale yourself from a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being doesn't feel true at all, 10 being it feels 100% true. Where do you feel on that kind of explanation of soul tired, soul weary, apathetic, heavy, sullen? 1 to a 10. Without judgment. So like, don't go, man, I shouldn't feel this way, or make up some story about that, what that means, or that you're a horrible person, or you're not strong enough, or you're weak. No. Let's suspend that for just a second. And let's look at this soberly. And we're just taking inventory as feedback of where we're at so that we can meet our needs, so that we can give ourselves what it is that we need to get through the rest of today, the rest of this week, and the rest of the year. So when I think about having that quote unquote diagnosis and then meeting myself with tenderness, meeting myself with compassion, like every single one of my one-on-one clients has been through hell and back this year. And I have so much empathy for them in the same way that I have empathy for myself, of being like, of course, like, can we just have a collective acknowledgement just for a second of what we've been through, y'all? Like, and honestly, it feels like we've got more in it, with the elections and everything. Can we just pause to recognize how resilient we have all been, how we are still standing? I know a lot of you guys are actually thriving in your businesses. And even if you're not, the fact that we're here, we have survived some of our hardest days. Wow. So meeting ourselves with like, oh, of course we're tired. Of course we're exhausted. Of course we're worn out. Like this is like one of these events, a pandemic by itself, crazy politics by itself, fires by itself, tornadoes by itself. I don't even know what else has happened this year. I'm trying to remember. Like there's been so many crazy things. One of those alone, not to mention just like the strain on our relationships and children and all of that, the school and work and it's like, can we just offer ourselves some grace for a second? Like to me, when we enter into this idea of soul rest is to me a posture of going from like clenched fist, tight shoulders, tight chest, heavy heart, to relaxed hands, rolling the shoulders down and back. It really, to me, is a posture of an exhale. where we can receive, where we can allow and let ourselves be helped, where we can let go and release this need of perfection. To me, soul rest is when we give ourselves permission to pause this energy, especially those of you who own your own business, this energy of the get, of the fight, of the chase, of the hustle, of the hunt, of the managing, of the controlling. To me, soul rest is a posture of allowing, giving ourselves permission to set it down and tend to the needs of our heart, creating space for rest. I'll tell you a little story. So, like I said, I've been in this launch where I've been marketing my membership, and I've just been doing all the things that go along with that. If you're an online entrepreneur, you know what I'm talking about. But emails and ads, and I did a beautiful masterclass, which I know so many of you guys were on, and just all the things that happen to get that out the door and published. And it was beautiful, but I was in a season of okay, focused, laser focused, getting all this work done. And last week, I had planned out for the week, here's what I'm going to eat this week. It was really clear because I didn't want to have another decision of what was for dinner. I hate making that decision. So I had planned my menu ahead of time. So I knew I was going to eat. And there was this one day that I was just in a funk, and I had been at my computer most of the day, which I don't typically do. I usually have a little break, but I was fried. My brain was fried. I was exhausted. And so Bentley, when I got home, he was like, let's go on a walk. It was a beautiful night, and we got out the door, and I was a little bit reluctant because I still had more work to do. I wanted to get the food prepped or whatever, but I decided in that moment to create the space for rest. And in this, it was an active rest. It was this gentle walk and being in the fresh air. And in that walk, it was that was kind of the first yes that I had to say yes to. And then the second was that I had to be open to the present moment of resting without another agenda hijacking my rest. So it would have been really easy to me. I think it was maybe 6:30. And I was I had planned for baked potatoes that night. And so I was oh, we need to hurry up and get home. This is what I'm thinking in my mind. We need to hurry up and get home so that I can get these baked potatoes in the oven. They take an hour, la, 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 la. And so all of a sudden I've left the present moment of this beautiful sunset in nature, being with the person that I love the most. And all of a sudden now I'm panicking about dinner. And Bentley turned to me and he grabbed my hand and he said, this is what really matters. This is life. And so I just had that beautiful sacred pause to sort of let go of the baked potato, let go of this agenda that I had planned out, that I had to eat this thing and I needed to have a certain time on it, and just say, you know what? I'm going to make space for this rest, because life happens when we rest, when we bring presence to it. And so to me, that soul rest is so much about being and so less about doing. It's letting our soul lead versus our ego. And so I like to think of soul rest when I'm thinking about creating more space for this in my life. To me, so we can kind of just identify more of what it is, it has 5 elements. Hey y'all, I'm sure you've been hearing me mention my Fully Alive Circle membership, and you might be wondering what it is and how you can join. So let me tell you a little bit about it. So the Circle membership is a safe place for women to gather together in a heart-centered community to take this deep dive into personal transformation. So it's my online membership where you'll learn how to find yourself again through daily devotional practices. Inside of our private Facebook group, I share resources like guided meditations, yoga practices, essential oil recipes, journal prompts, and so much more that dive into our monthly topic that we explore right here on the Living Fully Alive podcast. And all those resources are delivered to your inbox weekly to help you create powerful change in your life. So if you're looking for an affordable way to continue your journey of living fully alive, then definitely check out the Fully Alive Circle membership. Just go to maryhyatt.com facebook.com/circle, and you can find out all the details and join. All right, now back to this week's episode. So I'm going to go through these because I think this is like really helpful. And I always like having a numbered list of something. So the first element in order for us to have more soul rest is permission. This is where we have to give ourselves permission to pause, to let go, to release, to stop hustling for my worthiness, trying to earn love and affection. And honestly, this is probably the most important element. We have to choose rest. Y'all know rest is not going to choose it for us. It will not happen unless we are intentional about it. And we tell ourselves it is safe and okay to rest. And we've talked about this in the past episodes of this month, that so many of us have these defense systems set up to keep ourselves safe that don't let ourselves rest. It's not safe to rest. If I rest, my business will fall apart. If I rest, somebody will think I'm weak. And it all boils down to we're going to get abandoned or we're not going to be loved. And we're going to be a failure. We're not going to be enough. If we stop and pause, we're not going to be enough. Therefore, we won't be loved. And when we're not loved, we get abandoned. So there's this trauma trigger there. So we've got to give ourselves permission, stopping this chatter about why we can't or why we shouldn't or why we mustn't. And retrain our brains to say, it is okay right now for me to rest. It has to be a decision. Giving ourselves permission. So that's the first element. The second element is to remember. This is probably my favorite, which is remembering. So once we've given ourselves permission to rest, the next element is to remember the truth about who we are. To me, this element is about coming home. And when we pause and we kind of disengage from the hustle, there's this quote by Macrina Weirdaker, I think I'm saying that right. And she says, "Oh God, help me to believe the truth about myself, no matter how beautiful it is. Oh God, help me to believe the truth about myself, no matter how beautiful it is." This is to me where we remember that all is well. In this moment, we are okay. In this moment, I can remember that I am fully resourceful, fully capable. To remember that I am human and not a robot. To remember that I have limitations and that I need to refuel. To remember to come home to the truth about who we are, that we are already enough. That we are already worthy and deserving of all of the love and grace and beauty and joy. To remember. So that is the second element of soul rest. The third, and we've talked a little bit about this already, is presence. In order to fully engage and create space for soul rest, we have to bring presence. And this requires that we disengage. And y'all, we got to get off the social media. I have yet to watch Social Dilemma on Netflix. It is in the queue of things to watch. Honestly, I'm a little nervous to watch it because I know how I'm going to feel. Because I went off social media for like 9 months and then got back on. So I've got some feelings about it. But so much more now than ever before. The drama, the crazy, the fear, the anxiety, just pumping through our veins through social media takes us out of the moment, and we enter into a fantasy world that isn't even really real. And I'm not even talking about fake news necessarily, although that's a huge part of it. Like, that's not real life. We've got to bring back the presence and start focusing on what is here right now. Notice, become aware, be mindful of what is happening in this exact moment, slowing down to be fully present in the here and now. Soul rest doesn't happen in the anxiety of the past or in the stress of the future. Like, it's not going to happen through social media. You're not ever going to be replenished through social media. It's a total take. It's a take. And y'all, I try to be as positive as I can on social media and pump out great quotes and powerful stories and all of that. But right now, it is a take. And so right now, we have got to come back to the present moment. So let's do that. Let's do that right now. So whatever you're doing, wherever you are, let's just bring some presence to the moment. I want to actually implement this right now. So if you can close your eyes, do. We're literally going to take a minute to do this. If you're driving, then don't. You can still do this. But take a hand, if you're not driving, take a hand and place it on your heart. Close your eyes. Inhale deeply. Exhale through the mouth. Again, in. Exhale deeply. Again, in. Exhale fully. Soften with each exhale. Again, inhale deeply. Come into the present moment. Exhale. Again, in. Release out. One more in. Exhale. Keeping the hand on the heart, you can gently open your eyes and just notice where your feet are in this moment. Bring all of your presence to your feet. See if you can feel the ground or the car coming up to meet the bottoms of your feet, and the bottoms of the feet reaching down to the floor, to the car. Feel that connection. Notice this moment. Begin to notice your heart beating. Feel that subtle sensation of the heart behind the breastbone, slowing down to bring your full awareness to this moment. And just begin to look around. Notice what you see. Notice the colors. Notice the texture. Take a moment to feel the energy around you. And you can do this even if you're multitasking and you're driving, or just notice. Notice the part of yourself that is in this moment. Notice how in this moment you are totally safe. And that all is well in this moment, in this container right here. Notice what you smell. Notice the taste in your mouth. And then just release the hand down. Just that moment of bringing in that presence allows your soul to take a deep exhale. That's why it has to be an element of soul rest, to be present. The rest happens in the present moment, as all of life happens in the present moment. Already feels better. So now let's take a look at the fourth element of soul rest. And in order for us to really enter into more soul rest, we have to learn how to digest. Our physical bodies cannot actually digest our food when we are in a state of severe stress or trauma, or chronic fatigue, chronic anxiety, chronic stress. Like literally our physical digestion stops. I'm sure you've noticed this before. Like if you've had a particularly hard day, like it's harder for your body to digest. Maybe you're more constipated. It's like maybe you get sick, you want to throw up. It just stops. It like stops absorbing the nutrients that we need. And this is also true for ourselves emotionally. When we are in a place where we're frantic and frazzled, and maybe we're learning from a place of desperation, and we're kind of like trying to get more information, we start scrolling, we start reading, we start trying to like take in. And it's like, if you think about it from a physical standpoint, it'd be like stuffing your face, like with more and more and more food, even though you're full. And then you add in that anxiety to it. It's like your body cannot digest in the same way that our emotions cannot process when we're in that state of taking in so much information without letting it settle, without letting it digest. And so sometimes we need to just like literally stop consuming, literally and figuratively. But like sometimes we need to just stop consuming and give ourselves a break to digest. And this leads right into the last and fifth element of soul rest, which is to integrate. I cannot tell you how many times I've worked with clients who have read all of the books, who've been to all the seminars, the conferences, but are still struggling, like still running on fumes, still feeling lost, still stuck, still wishing their life was different than it was. And it boils down to their ability to apply, practice, and be consistent with what they have been learning. Like knowledge isn't the problem. We don't need more information. We don't need to be taking in more information. We actually need to apply what it is that we're learning, to implement it, to give ourselves and our minds and our emotions a chance to like take it and put it into practice. In order to create massive change in our life, we've got to integrate what we're learning. And this is why I'm such a huge fan, not only of the Fully Alive Circle, because we actually get to do this work where we integrate everything that we're learning. Like we take all this from the podcast and then we put it into practice. We journal about it. We meditate on it. We move our bodies around it. But to me, it's like creating that regular practice, changing our habits, using our tools. Like we all know those people that are so smart and have done all the trainings and know all the things, but they aren't using their tools. Like underlining words in a book is not going to ever be enough. So we've got to integrate. We've got to put it into practice before we move on to more. And like, you know, think about like drinking from the fire hose. That's what I hate about conferences sometimes, is that it's like being talked to. Have you guys ever had that experience where back in the days when we actually got in a room with hundreds of people? Gosh, will it ever go back? I wonder. I hope so. I do love the energy of a conference. But one of the challenges in conferences is that it's like all this information, like fire hose information, and we never go home and we do anything about it. It's like, it feels really enlightening. It feels like an aha moment at the time, but we don't go and actually like take it and put it into practice. And we're so trained to be a consumer that we have forgotten to integrate. And if we're going to truly bring our souls back to equilibrium, back to a place of resting so that we're not weary, we've got to give ourselves permission and space to rest. We have to remember the truth of who we are, that there is no need to hustle and try to earn our worthiness. We are already so incredibly lovable. Third, we have to bring presence and come totally and fully and wholly into this moment, to see the gifts, the blessings that are here right now, all that is available in this moment. For our soul to rest, we have to digest everything that we have been learning. We've got to pause to let ourselves digest and absorb the nutrients emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And lastly, we've got to integrate it. We've got to put it into practice. We have to apply it consistently, regularly, get good at it. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I mean, any kind of work that is rest, because we haven't been trained to do this, like it's awkward at first. We're going to have that resistance. We're going to have that feeling of like, I can't do this. I can't do this. We're going to have the voice in our heads that's saying, see, Mary, I told you. You shouldn't rest. This is going to happen. So-and-so is going to judge you. This is going to happen. Worst case scenario. We're going to have all that sort of monkey mind thinking. And we've got to tolerate the awkwardness of feeling uncomfortable, feeling the discomfort of entering into rest. Like I know that I shared about my dad, like, on vacation, where when you go on vacation, he couldn't even like disconnect from the computer, and he had to teach himself how to rest, to turn it off, to really be in the moment. And like, that is true for all of us. As Richard Carlson says, he said, you are what you practice most. Think about that for a second. You are what you practice most. So are you practicing rest so that you can be at rest? Or are you practicing stress? Think about what you are practicing. You are what you practice most. And if we don't create space for soul rest, we're going to have the opposite, soul stress. I didn't plan to say that, but it does rhyme. I like that. So what does practicing rest look like for you? How will you know when you're doing it? I think it's so important for us, because we need like that feedback, to have markers for ourselves to know when we're doing it so that we can reinforce it and say, good job, you're resting. Like, we need to practice. And as you guys know, anytime we're starting something new, it's awkward. We're going to fumble through it, but the more we can do it and practice, the better and better we get. And the easier it is for us to allow space for rest. It becomes part of our identity. I am somebody who is okay with resting. I am somebody who loves to rest. I am somebody who creates regular time and space for rest. That's just who I am, because I value it, because I know how important it is, because I deserve it, because I need it. And I'm a person who honors my needs. So practicing rest could be really different depending on who you are and what you love and what lights you up and what is nourishing to yourself. So in the action part of this episode, I encourage you to, once this is over, pause and journal. Even if it's on your phone, or, just take 5 minutes to make out a list of the things that are restful to you. From 1 to 10, choosing from when you're in that place where you go, my sweet soul, or my body, or my heart, my brain is asking for rest. You have a list you can go to choose from, just like I do when I make up my meal plan ahead of time for the week. It's like, I don't want to have to try to decide how to rest in the moment when I'm already exhausted and fatigued. Like, a great way to combat decision fatigue and have to, to me, I always, when I'm in that place where I've made so many decisions the day, and then you ask me to make one more decision, I'm always going to go for the low bar kind of rest. Let me drink a glass of wine. And that's not really restorative. And that's certainly not soul rest. And so having a list that you can choose from, that you think about in a time when you're not in that horrible, deep state of exhaustion, gives you a tool that you can pull out when you are just even too tired to decide or think about it. And you go, I just have to choose one of these things. And let me just tell you this, and this is a problem that I see a lot of people make, is that they make this list from an ideal place where it's go get a pedicure, schedule a massage, or take a 2-hour nap, or whatever. And the reality is that sometimes rest can feel like more work. If it requires you, when you're exhausted, to have to get out of the house again and go get a pedicure, or go get a massage, or whatever, or read a book or journal, that might feel like effort. And when you're exhausted, when your soul is weary, it's I'm sorry, I don't have space for that. And you're not going to do it. So what I say to my clients is, I say, make it so easy a kindergartner could do it. Make it so ridiculously realistic. So it's not in fantasy land of rest. It's in realistic, I'm so freaking tired land of rest. So easy. And even out of that list of 10, circle the top 2 that are the easiest. So when you are literally barely making it, you just choose from top 1, top 2. Does that make sense? Creating that ahead of time for the part of you that is advocating for yourself, that is fiercely loving herself, choosing to create space to nourish herself in a way that will enliven, revive her soul. Have her be your advocate. Have yourself be your advocate ahead of time so that you have it where it's literally so easy you can do it. So y'all, that is my encouragement, to pause and to journal this out. Give yourself the tools as part of that integration where you have it. And to see how you can create more space for soul rest, because we need it. Our souls are weary, and I hear you. I get it. I'm with you. Every day is managing my output, managing my input, controlling what I watch, the negativity I let into my ears, into my eyes, having really strong boundaries around that so that I can stay here in service of you guys and for myself and for those that I love. And it includes a lot of this rest. So y'all, I just want to say, I'm just like in this with you guys, and you're doing amazing. You really are doing such a beautiful job. It's not about perfection. It's about the 1% shift, that little tiny shift of creating a little bit more space for rest, even if that's 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You got this. All right, y'all. I am so excited because next week we introduce the brand new theme for the month in October, which is going to be about necessary endings. I'm so excited to talk about releasing things in your life, people in your life, habits in your life, places in your life that are no longer serving you. And we're going to get deep into that, even the grief of it, all next month. So tune in, make sure to rate this 5 stars, subscribe to the podcast, share this with a girlfriend, and to remember that the purpose of life is to be grateful, to be great, and to be full. I'll see y'all next week. Bye. Hey y'all, thanks so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you got some amazing nuggets to take home and start implementing into your life. And if you're looking for the show notes and links, head on over to maryhyatt.com/show. And if you loved it, why not bring your girlfriends along this journey of becoming fully alive with you? Just give a quick share of this episode to your social channels and enjoy those debriefing convos with your besties. Thanks again, and I can't wait to connect with you next week.